All right. Hey, Golden Child. Welcome to another episode of Book Talk Tuesday. Okay, I know, I'm late. I know, y'all. Today has been a day, okay? Whatever this little bug that my kids picked up from a birthday party a month ago, okay, is that thing been lingering and trying to stick around. I'm sick of it. Okay, my one of my somebody I recently connected with gave me some tips on how to deal with it. But that is not why we're here today. We are here for Book Talk Tuesday. Okay. Yesterday we did our co-working session. It was Magic Monday. I shared about the different events that we're having this week. Nope. Um, I shared about the different events that we have going on this week. We have a new event coming up. We ran it. It was on the 22nd of this month, but I'll be doing it again on February 7th. That is our How to Self Publish with Ease workshop. And I'm super excited about this. I can't believe January is almost over. I cannot believe January is about to be over. It's crazy. Um, but today I will be talking about chapter 4 of Psycho-Cybernetics. Y'all, I've been behind on my reading, but I still I try to stay like 2 chapters ahead, and I haven't really done any reading lately because I'm trying to get rid of this bug in my house. And I woke up this morning, my daggone ear was hurt, and I'm like, not an ear infection. I'm too grown for an ear infection. What is going on here? What is going on here? Um, but I said, let me get myself together. I took a nap, so I'm feeling more refreshed than I was earlier because I was struggling. I was struggling earlier. So, yes, I am here. I'm super excited about this conversation because this has been a really good book. It's been a really good conversation. Last week, if you missed last week, that was the best one yet. Shout out to Lady J for her questions. Um, and for helping me to continue to process the information that I am reading from this book. Um, and thankfully, Lady J is here tonight. If anyone is here on YouTube, feel free to drop in the chat. Let us know where you are tuning in from. Um, and I will acknowledge you over there. But chapter 4 of Psycho-Cybernetics. Oh, and if you don't know, this is not just for me to come in and share about my books that I'm reading. It's for you to come in if you're reading a book, if there's some insight, some information, some wisdom, some knowledge that is benefiting you from a book that you're reading or have read. It doesn't even have to be anything recent. But if it's something that you want to share, that's what this book talk is for. I come and I share about the books that I'm reading. You come and share about the books that you're reading or have read. And it's an opportunity for us to bond over books. Okay. What better way to bond than to bond over books? There are so many different books out there. My one of my good friends, she just got me hip to some resources for my library in my area that I can use for my kids for free. If you have kids, um, and some libraries, I know mine in my area, you can access ABC Mouse for free through your library card. So she sent me that today. So I'm excited. I really need to get into the resources at the library, but books, okay, books. Y'all know I just be all over the place. Books. Chapter 4 of Psycho-Cybernetics is Dehypnotize Yourself from False Beliefs. So far, this chapter has been probably one of the most impactful for me. Um, just because it was talking about how we don't always realize how we move through life hypnotized by conditioning, hypnotized by how we were raised, hypnotized by what's familiar, hypnotized by society's standards for how we're quote unquote supposed to live. And we just go through life without questioning things, go through life without trying to understand why we do certain things. As I mentioned last week, 95% of what we do is from our subconscious. And only 5% of what we do on a day-to-day basis comes from our conscious or our conscious awareness of how we're moving and how we're doing things throughout the day. So we are wired for survival when it comes to our subconscious mind. So it's easier for us to be hypnotized because we're so wired for survival. We're so wired to move and function from our subconscious, which we're not actively um tapping into and tuning into in order to move a certain way or live a certain way. So in chapter 4 of Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he explores the impact of limiting beliefs and how they shape our self-image and our behaviors. He explains that many people are hypnotized by false beliefs instilled through past experiences, failures, and external criticism. One of the things that stood out for me, excuse me, y'all, told her I'm trying to get over this bug, but we get so caught up on our failures and identify so closely with them. It's like, man, instead of saying, oh, I failed this test, you automatically think, or if you fail multiple tests in a certain subject, you automatically identify with being a failure in this subject. When in all reality, if you just stick to the facts, I just failed a test or multiple tests, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It says these beliefs act like mental barriers, preventing individuals from realizing their full potential. We have so much more potential than we give ourselves credit for, than we allow ourselves to fulfill. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about our deepest fears. And my deepest fear, my biggest fear, is not living up to my fullest potential. So when you see me out there, or you see me on YouTube, you see me in different spaces and places, it is because I am literally running, running away from this fear of not fulfilling my fullest potential. It has taken me to some spaces and places where it did lead to burnout. It did lead to me, doing too much, trying to people please and overwork and overdo. Now I'm in a space and a place where I'm much more intuitively guided with the things that I'm doing. I'm not just doing things to be doing things. I don't remember who I was talking to. I'm always talking to somebody. But I was telling them I'm in a space and place where I'm now more productive than busy. My mom used to call me a busybody all the time because I was always doing something, always going, always, leading this and doing that and doing this and doing that. And that was out of that hypnotized space because I was trying to outrun this fear of not living up to my fullest potential. Now I'm jogging. I'm not like I'm not like overdoing it. Like it might be a light jog that I'm doing now versus like full on running, because I found more balance in being productive versus busy. And I'm, like I said, I'm much more intentional and much more intuitively guided with the things that I'm doing so that I can rest, that I can pause, that I can give myself time and space to really think about and process the things that I'm doing versus from this hypnotized space in place of just really being on autopilot. It says Maltz emphasizes that these self-imposed limitations are not facts, but rather perceptions that can be changed. This is one of the things that has really supported me with shifting my life, shifting my mindset, and shifting where the trajectory of my life, shifting my perception, shifting my perspective on even my past experiences has really supported me with moving forward in a new way, moving forward in a way that is beneficial and supportive versus a way that's going to lead me to burnout, a way that's going to lead me into relationships that are unsupportive, that are unsafe, in a way that is going to lead me into um just a situation and a lifestyle that is not the lifestyle that I desire. So for me, being able to change my perceptions, being able to not move from a space of being hypnotized and really dehypnotizing myself from these false beliefs, it has really supported me with being able to change my mindset and change the direction of my life overall. Here come my munchkins. Um Lady J, was there anything you wanted to touch on so far from what I've been talking about? You can drop it in the chat or come off mute, either one. Um, but the chapter introduces the idea that humans operate like a goal-seeking mechanism, and false beliefs distort this mechanism by creating self-doubt and fear. So essentially, if you think about a computer gets a virus and it starts to distort the way that it moves, the way that it acts. It literally can even fry the computer. So when we operate from this space of false beliefs, it creates this self-doubt, it creates this fear, it creates this idea that, like for me, that I have to chase something that is not for me, that I have to chase things and people that are not for me. It gives me this idea that I'm seeking out things, people, situations, and circumstances that were never for me to begin with. It says most provides techniques to dehypnotize oneself, such as practicing self awareness. And this is um, one of the principles that I've been talking about this month, as far as New Year Better You, our theme for this month, self-awareness. Giving yourself the time and the space to be aware of your entire being, not just your physical being, your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your energetic being. Giving yourself that time to practice self-awareness, what it looks like, what it feels like. I did this in my one of my recent events, and I call it the 5 bodies assessment, where you really check in and start to assess and look at what these bodies look like, what they feel like, what color they are, and really get to know yourself on a deeper level. That's what self-awareness is, taking the time to get to know yourself, to become more aware of who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and not be based off of somebody else's experiences, somebody else's opinion, somebody else's likes and dislikes. It's really giving yourself the time to check in with yourself to see why it is that you're doing certain things, why it is you like or dislike certain things, and reassess to say, okay, I didn't like that because I saw XYZ growing up, or because this person didn't like it. But really, when you check in and you try it for yourself from this new self awareness, you're like, oh, I actually really do like this, or I actually really don't like it. But it's from a new space of understanding, a new space of self awareness. It says challenging irrational beliefs. A lot of our beliefs can be irrational. They can come from a space of originally. So it gave the example in the book where if you have this experience where you're going on a walk and you experience a bear, and whether it's a imagined bear, or it's a dog that looks like a bear, or a person dressed up as a bear, your your response is going to be to run in fear. And whether it's irrational or rational is based off of your perception and based off of the reality of what it really was. If it was just a dog instead of a bear, that was an irrational belief that every time you go into these woods or take this walk, you're going to have this belief that there's going to be a bear in these woods. So when you take the time to challenge those irrational beliefs, that'll give you it gives you a technique to dehypnotize yourself and really assess and process things from a new perspective. And then visualizing success. We talked about this in the last chapter, where they basically did a study where they had 3 different groups of people, and one group actually did the practice shots. The second group did no practice. The third group just visualized them taking the practice shots. And there was only a 1% difference from the people that actually physically practiced and the ones that visualized their practice when it came to their success and their improvement. So when you understand how our subconscious mind works, how our brain works, there's really no difference for our brain the difference between something imagined vividly and something that is actually happening. So when you're constantly and intentionally visualizing yourself successful in whatever area that you might find that you're stuck or struggling, that will support you with dehypnotizing yourself and shifting things in your life and in your lifestyle. Let me make sure this. Okay, check the chat. Um, it talks about most encourages readers to reprogram their self-image by focusing on their strengths and achievements rather than fixating on perceived weakness or failures. Um, so this is a lot of what it talks about throughout the entire book so far from what I've read. It really focuses on how you see yourself. If you can change how you see yourself according to this book, you can literally change your life. And from my personal experience so far, that's really what it has been. When you focus on your strengths, when you focus on your achievements, even a small success or a small strength or a small achievement, to me nothing is really small. If you're capable of doing something, even if it's tying your shoe, that's something that somebody else can't do, whether it's a child or an adult. So you have a strength or an achievement that you can teach somebody else. And I have this experience even today where someone booked a call with me to talk about my YouTube, and I literally have just started this maybe 3 months ago. So I'm a new YouTuber, but she said something to me. She said, "You're a new YouTuber, but I'm an even newer YouTuber." She says, "So you have something to teach me, you have something to share with me. Even if you're only a little bit further along than somebody else on the journey, there is something that you have to teach them. There's something that you have to share with them. There's something that they can learn from you. So don't discount the quote unquote small beginning or the what's the word I'm looking for? The short-term success that you've achieved, because you've done something that somebody else has yet to do or is aspiring to do, that you can support them with it, even if it's just one tip or one nugget or gem of information. um so being able to look at yourself as a expert, even if it's a little you've only been doing something for a short amount of time, that helps to change your success mechanism to focus more on your successes than your failures. Says ultimately, the chapter teaches that by dismantling false beliefs and building a positive self image, individuals can unlock their potential and achieve greater success in both their personal and professional lives. If we realize just how connected everything is to our self image, to our internal environment, when we can shift our internal environment, when we can shift our self image, it gives us the ability to unlock our fullest potential. It gives us the ability to achieve things greater than we even can imagine, than we've even seen other people do around us or in our lives or on the movies or on TV, whatever it is. It helps us to unlock our fullest potential so that for me, I won't have that fear or that self doubt like I'm not doing enough. I'll know from an intuitively guided space, from a space of confidence and self awareness, that, you know what? I don't have to do it all. I don't have to do everything. I don't have to be everything for everyone. I know that I am enough. I know that I'm doing enough. And I know that just by being me, I'm living up to my fullest potential, because nobody else can do that. Nobody else can be me. Nobody else can fill my shoes. Nobody else has had my experiences. Nobody else can look, act, or be me, because I was created uniquely on this earth as a unique individual that no one can replace, and no one can, you can try to mimic me or whatever the case may be, but nobody else can fill my shoes, fill my purpose, or fulfill the calling that I have on my life. So for me, when it comes to dehypnotizing myself from false beliefs, a lot of it has come from releasing those fears, those doubts, though that imposter syndrome, that I have to show up and do everything and be everything for everybody. And instead, I can just be me. I can do what I feel I'm led to do and know that that's enough. Know that even if I just plant a seed or, just share a little bit of what I know. that is enough. That I don't have to give it all away. I don't have to do it all in order to fulfill my purpose or in order to live up to my fullest potential. Um, so some of the parts of the book that I underlined, um, but that was really just a synopsis of the chapter. Um, Lady J, did you have any questions, any comments, or anything like that based off of the synopsis of the chapter? But like I said, this chapter for me, I definitely did a lot of highlighting and underlining. Um, it says the only change was in his belief and in his self-image. A lot of times when we're looking for change, we're looking for shifts, we're looking for um, things to our lives to transform, it starts with us. It starts with our belief and it starts with our change in our self image. So, dehypnotizing yourself means really shifting your mindset from thinking of yourself in the ways of what other people have conditioned you to believe or to see yourself, so that you can see yourself for your truest and most authentic self. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, human design has been so supportive with the self-awareness, with really strengthening my spirituality and strengthening my understanding of who I am and how I was designed to be. um it's a scientific research show has shown that Dr. Adler's experience was not one in a million, but typically of practically all students who make poor grades. It says after thousands of experience and many years of research, Lecky concluded that poor grades in school in almost every case due in some degree to the student's self-conception or self-definition. So if you have a child or student or if you're a teacher and they literally hypnotize themselves to say, I'm dumb or I'm weak, I'm bad at math, I'm not a good speller, I'm ugly, whatever the thing is that they've negatively convinced themselves to believe about themselves, by helping them to shift their self image, you can literally help them to shift how they show up, how they behave, how they perform. So, with such self definitions, the students had to make poor grades in order to be true to himself. So, in order to be true to himself, in order to be true to what they believe, they had to make poor grades. They had to have that evidence of, okay, I'm a poor student or I'm bad at math or I'm ugly. They had to continue to produce the evidence of their beliefs. Um, it says, is everyone hypnotizes one of the sections of the books. It says, it is no exaggeration to say that every human being is hypnotized to some extent, either by ideas he has uncritically accepted from others or ideas he has repeated to himself or convinced himself are true. So to some extent, even though I'm doing this work, I'm still hypnotized in some ways too. There are still some beliefs, some things that I think about myself or believe about myself that I'm still working through in order for me to dehypnotize myself and not work so much from this hypnotized space and place. It says, what the hypnotic suggestion. Go ahead, Lady J. I see your hand.
How does that apply to a Black child in a school system, in a classroom, where there's so many different things that they have to they have to deal with? There's before they even come into the classroom. I mean, there's environment, there's socioeconomic situations that may be going on with their parents. There's riding the bus from their neighborhood and or walking to their school, their interactions with strangers, their interactions with people that are their friends, other classmates that maybe they don't know. I'm just thinking from my perspective as a little Black girl in Prince George's County, Maryland schools, the things that I was met with or met me on my way to school. And so I feel like I'm a bit confused about how that could hypnotize a child that may not even understand that before they get to the classroom, there are different things that they're going to experience along the way that will affect them before they sit down at that desk, write their name, take their paper out, hang up their book bag, and take their coat off.
Because it really starts in the home. The whole, because our beliefs, our ideas, our identity is formed in that 0 to 7 age range. So whether it's school, whether it's home, whether it's church, whether it's the extracurricular activities, the people that we're around, our family, our people of origin, those are the things that contribute to how we see ourselves. Whether we
Right,
grew up.
I get that part, but the part
Uh-huh.
that I'm questioning is the hypnosis of who you are and what you are before you even sit down to learn something. So I get that, that the environment, the parent, the neighborhood, the walking to school, getting on the bus. But my thing is, who is hypnotizing a black child before they sit down to learn something? There's
Oh,
so
that.
many, yeah, there's so many barriers before that child sits down that a lot of the time the parent is the protector. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I mean, if you're a little black girl and there are other little black girls in your class, you're going to connect with your identity first, what you identify, what you have in common with those other little girls at first.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of these little girls are going to sit down in the school system and they're already being, they don't even know they're going to have to deal with the pipeline, the president from the school system. It's like, how is a child even hypnotized at that point? There has to be something or someone putting that in the child's head. It's I mean, it's like you can hug and love and kiss your mom, and your mom can tell you you're beautiful, and then you go out the door and get on the school bus and somebody tell you something different. Or when you get to class, there's bubble gum being put in your hair because it's longer than the other girl's hair. Then you
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with that. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I can't even concentrate because now I'm going to have to tell my mother that my hair is messed up because somebody put bubble gum in my hair, and now I can't even concentrate on what the teacher is saying. Then there are other barriers. There are other students in class who are taught different. Like every child is taught different.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen as a student sitting in the classroom, things that other students have said to other kids that affect them all day long as a child. Then becoming a educator, I have seen the exact same behavior. Now, because I've seen it happen to other students when I was growing up, as an educator, I had to step in and say, okay, what's going on right here? Why are you talking to this individual when she has her assignment to do? And then I have to get that child to feel comfortable enough and not feel anxiety and afraid to let an adult know that this other student is basically telling them they shouldn't even do their assignment, they're stupid. It seems small to an adult, but that child, if they're told that every day, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
start to believe that. They're going to start to believe it, and then it's so the only way that I could see someone being hypnotized is if there is something taught in a different home where that student comes into the classroom and almost verbally inflicts something on other students. I've seen that, but if you are a child and you're in a different environment, you're in a healthy environment, they're you're walking to school or you're riding to school and you're safe and protected. You're with people that, you like them, they like you, or maybe you don't know them, but you're open to knowing them. And then you get in the classroom and oh, okay, these are the people that I met on the way to school. Let's see what we have in common. Oh, do you understand the assignment? Yes, I understand. No, I don't understand the assignment. Then there are children that will say, well, this is how the teacher explained it, but this is how I understand it. So then you got different learning experiences and abilities at that point. But if you're in a classroom that's healthy, and maybe there's one student that learns visually, another one that learns only by hearing, and one that has to get up and physically do something to
Mm-hmm.
absorb the information. Those 3 or 4 students can still achieve, like they can still learn and achieve in that class, although they learn differently. But it's almost like there's something invisible. There's a barrier. There's something there. There's one student that is being taught to go to school and do these things to get ahead of other students. And it may not be that very clear for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
but when you sit in a classroom, and I used to observe, I started out observing students in classrooms, and I had to write IEPs. And I really wanted to get to the bottom of, well, what does this IEP do for this child? It took probably a whole year for me to understand what exactly an IEP is doing. It's saying that it's helping the student, but
Mm-hmm.
there are a whole lot of other things that go with that IEP, like the actual principal of the school. I'll say that particular school will get a certain amount of funds for
Mm-hmm.
every IEP that's being put out. So if you have an IEP, so let's go back to the student coming in the classroom, the little girl, she's dealing with bubble gum in her hair. Okay, so she nervous, she don't know what mommy gonna do when she get home. Let's set that aside. That's one issue. Now let's say somebody comes to observe this little girl today in the middle of all of that and doesn't know what's going on, just
Mm-hmm.
knows that they are supposed to observe that child in that environment. They're going to write down this person is not able to pay attention, they're not focused, they're talkative, they have behavioral problems. And then that parent has to be the one to go and sit in a meeting and fight that to not be in that child file. Then
Mm-hmm.
an IEP is done again at a different time. So it's done at different times. And then at the end of the school year is when there's like an overall observation of, okay, so this was the issue the first time the IEP happened. This is the quarter, this is this is that. They put it all together, and then sitting in some of those meetings, children are not even listened to. You have to have a teacher at that point, or a teacher and a parent, and maybe a guidance counselor in the corner of that child. That child will probably sit right there and say, you know what, why should I even try? I mean, it doesn't make a difference if I say what happened, nobody's gonna really listen.
Mm-hmm.
So the hypnosis part is the part that I'm trying to understand from a BIPOC perspective. Um, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll spend some time reading that chapter, but again, my all of our experiences are colored through our different lenses, and from an educator and a child in the classroom to an IEP writer to leaving that, I see so much that little kids have to deal with and fight just to sit in a public school system classroom for free and learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different if it's a private school or one of those I forget what you call it, but there were a lot of these schools popped up in DC, and I can't think of the name of it. But a parent, it's not exactly private, but a parent can get funding to put their children in this particular kind of school. Um,
I'm talking about
those
the
environments.
seed school.
What is it called?
Seed, I think seed school.
Um, I have to look. Is that for like early childhood education, for like before pre-K into pre-K into first grade and like kindergarten?
Oh, you're talking about I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it though.
Okay, but you get what I'm saying. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So those environments have a little bit more control over. I'll say it seems like they have a little bit more control over the interaction, the social interaction in between students.
Mhm.
But sometimes with some, I didn't do this in my class. I was more of a creative educator. If my student wanted to get up and they wanted to jump rope and learn something, do it. As long
Mhm.
as, nothing like bounce a ball in the school system, but we had like a little play area outside my door where I could sit right in the door and, maybe if that student needed a rhythm or a beat to understand and to memorize something. But a lot of time, it's so much that kids deal with. I've seen, like, I had to observe just different children. And you just don't really even, it doesn't hit you until you're walking down the hallway and you see, okay, wow, this student is really dealing with this. And this happened on their way to their locker and from their locker to their first class. And I'm talking from a junior high perspective. So
Mhm.
I've taught pre-K to ninth grade. Um, and then from that point on, as far as teaching in um, the higher education, I've done like 10th, 11th, and 12th, but most of that was volunteer on a volunteer basis
Yeah.
because most of the students would come to me after school for a whole nother program, not in Prince George's County now. So they had a whole nother set of things in their environment they were dealing with. And it probably was something. It's probably something that kids from different areas, not just Prince George's County, all over the U.S. that deal with different things. Getting home safely, getting to school on time. Um, and as far as the DC students I had, they had to deal with a lot of gun violence. And so that was really hard on me when when that particularly would happen and we would have to end our program early and we have to make sure that everyone got home safely. But the hypnosis part, I mean, I can think of some things that I've seen in the school systems between students of different cultures and races that it really should have been meetings about them. And the only way that happens is if the student is brave enough to open their mouth and say, well, these particular students in a classroom, they go around and say little stuff when the teacher's not, maybe not aware, maybe when she's turning her back, or maybe she had to step out for a minute to talk to a parent. Those things really can affect a student. And for me as an educator, then I was very in tune with my students' body language. I could pick up, it's like I could just smell something was wrong. And I would contact the parent first, even though the school system wants to know first. But contact the parent, then let the principal know, and then have a meeting about it. There's no anything that ever happened with me and students, it completely documented because I know what it's like to sit in a classroom and you're sitting there and you working on your work and you feeling good about yourself, right? And then somebody you don't even talk to like that says something. So it's like at the same time when you're a student of color, you have to have that what the older generations before my generation called tough skin. But
Mhm.
at the same time, there's no such thing when somebody just says something to you, and then when you're a child, you don't understand that there's certain things that you don't have that tough skin yet to
Yeah.
build that
Just
barrier up,
absorb it.
right? So, and it really shouldn't even be that at a certain age. It's like you should feel safe to at least raise your hand and participate in class. And so sometimes from an educator's perspective, that's like pulling teeth. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, none of y'all are participating. Do you understand the assignment?
Uh-huh.
If you don't, then I need to explain it a different way. We're gonna do it a different way. Um, that's that's just something that that I'm just wondering. Like when you said that, I'm like, wow, who's hypnotizing kids? Like who? But at the same time, now when I think about it, because some things that are said too, not just from friends, from different people, can affect a child. So, for example, without violating anyone's privacy, I had a student. I knew he was smart, right? I knew he was
Mhm.
smart, but he was bored, and
Yeah.
so I had to give him advanced work, and it that didn't set well with a lot of parents. So, but what ended up happening is I ended up giving the advanced work to the entire class. And I didn't have a problem with that. But this particular student could have been skipped a couple of grades. But he kept saying he didn't want to because he didn't want to leave his friends behind and he didn't want to be made fun of more. And when he said
Yeah.
more, then I knew what the issue was. So what ended up happening is he actually did get skipped a grade, but he didn't leave my classroom.
Uh,
So I mean, it worked out, and that's only because he had so many people in his corner. I mean, like six educators, and so, but I'm wondering if that could be done for every student. I mean, how different would public schools be for certain students? But yeah, that particular student there was a rumor about his behavior, and it was said in a meeting, and I decided that I was going to leave that meeting because why would that be said about a student from an adult?
yeah.
And I didn't take that very well at all. I left for a couple of days and then we re-had that meeting and that particular adult apologized to that child. But the effect was already like you said. So
Uh-huh.
maybe that's the hypnotism. He already believed it
Mm-hmm.
because not only was it coming from other students, it came out of another adult's mouth. And this adult was an educator, not his direct teacher. So, I mean, I went off in that meeting and I was like, when somebody says something to you, you have a decision to believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, the other thing about it is you don't have to prove that to that adult. You can prove that to yourself
Yeah.
because that adult may feel that way because another teacher told them.
Uh-huh.
And then I left. I had to leave. I had to leave. But anyway, unfortunately, that I mean, he had been fighting that for a while. And sometimes you have to give kids. He was a teenager. You have to give them a little pep talk, but not over talk them. So
Yeah.
I would just say to him, you know what? That's what that person said, but that's not really who you are, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he might have said that in front of me, but he could have wrote, he could have been, it could have ran through his mind all day long. And so that's the part of, it's just that's the part in the school system sometimes that I'm like, wow, there needs to be someone that focuses on specifically the social interaction between students.
Yeah.
And I had one colleague. She took away the privilege. She called it a privilege. She took away the privilege for the children to talk to one another.
Mm.
And I had never seen. They were so quiet. I didn't even know they were in her classroom.
Wow.
They couldn't talk at lunch to one another. They couldn't
What?
talk in her classroom, and they couldn't talk on their way to the bus.
Wow.
So my question to her was, I mean, and they all got excellent grades. I mean, she had
Mm-hmm.
the highest everything as far as an educator. But I said to her, I said, okay, so how did the children learn? a lesson between one another when it comes to social interaction, because there's healthy social interaction and then there's not so much. It's not so
Mhm.
healthy. So, I mean, what she was like, that's not for me to teach in the classroom. I was
Oh.
like, but do you understand? Yeah. I was letting her know. I was like, I'm letting you know that this is a barrier that children deal with. And she said, but guess what? None of my students deal with that. And she was absolutely right. At least in the classroom and in the school, I said, but on the bus, getting off the bus and walking home. That might be the scariest moment for your students for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
She was like, hey, I don't have to have no extra meetings about two kids getting in a fight. None of my students have gotten in a fight in years. And she was right. I was like, wow. I mean, it's like military. You got them lined up. They got to walk on the third block and they can't run into one another. I'm like, whoa. Yes, it was like that. And I had never seen students do that before, not in a public school system.
Mhm.
But hey, I guess it worked. But my students, I was like, nah, we're not doing that. Mm-mm.
No. Cause
I
they're
want y'all.
individuals. They're individuals to, yeah, to make them be uniform and to take away their quote unquote privilege to
Hmm.
to talk to one another. Like, wow, we
I right, and I was like, is that a freedom?
the freedom of
It's
speech.
hey, that's a whole nother. I haven't worked in a school system for a while, so I don't even know. Like I used to say to the parents and the children, look at your student handbook. It gives you it tells you the rights that you have. But that was way before now. Like the things that have happened since I left the school system, it's been years. Like I couldn't see myself going back in physically teaching in a public school setting. It's
Mhm. Yeah,
now
and that's
online or like I don't I a lot of educators like myself well I'm not exactly a millennial but I'm not exactly a generation Xer. So I'm
mhm.
like in the middle if that makes any sense. But a lot of the people that when I started as a teacher, they mentored me. And so I had some students that, they were ready to kick out of the school. And I would just say, just send them to my classroom and I'll see before you all send them home for a week, 2 weeks. Let's just see, if I could reach the student. And because I'm so little and tiny when it comes to, I'll say junior high and high school, they always thought I was their age. And I'm like, no, I'm not your age. I'm not. You're taller than me. Yes, you are. You probably could pick me up or shove me down, but no, we're not the same age. So, but just I would just try and reach them. And sometimes some of the students would just be like, "Oh no, don't tell Miss such and such. Go tell Miss Lady J." Well, they knew my name. Go no,
Mhm.
don't talk to me like
Mama, say hi
that.
to my auntie, my uncle.
Go ahead, bye.
My uncle and my uncle and
Oh boy,
Is he all right?
yeah, he could.
All right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't want to get too far off. You were explaining the
Uh-uh.
hypnosis part. I need to
No, you're good. And it's really that repetition. You talked about it. You kind of touched on it. Like if somebody is repeatedly hearing something or experiencing something, their brain is gonna be wired to believe that that's what their environment is supposed to be like, and that's what their experience is supposed to be like. And like you said, people are telling them, "Oh, you constantly go to school and somebody is telling you that you're ugly or you're too dark or you too big or you too small, whatever the case may be, it's that repetition. And that's what it's going to take to dehypnotize or rewire their brain. If you think about it, is necessary. Is you can think of it as hypnotizing, or you can think of it as programming. You can be programmed for success, or you can be programmed to positivity, or you can be programmed for failure, or you can be programmed to negativity. And that's really what it is when it talks about hypnotism in this book. It's how your brain is wired to for success, or it's wired for failure. And whether you have the opportunity, or you have the the support or the backing to be able to have that repetition of positivity, if you're wired for negativity, or if you're growing up in a negative environment, like having teachers like you that are going to give them the opportunities to learn in the way that is best for them, that plants those seeds and gives them those experience, those repeat experiences, to say, even though, this is my home environment, this is my bus environment, I'm still having these positive experiences that are inching me along away from the negative experiences. Even if it might not be, enough to completely get me out of the woodworks, it's still leading me in a more positive direction than somebody who doesn't have those positive experiences at all. So even though, I might still be having these negative experiences, I have this on the other end that is putting me in a different direction, that is leading me and guiding me into a different direction, that is putting in my mind that there can be a different experience, that I can see myself differently, that I can think about myself differently than all of these other programmings, or all of these other images, or all of these other experiences that I'm having. So it's really about the repetition. It's about having that support system in those positive experiences, positive teachers, positive environments, even in the midst of all of the other chaos or experiences, negative experiences that they might be having. And even in so when I like I said, hypnotism, you can be hypnotized to or programmed to believe positively, or you can be hypnotized or programmed to believe negatively. So it just depends on, like you were talking about, it depends on your environment. It depends on how you were raised. It depends on who you were raised around. It depends on, um, all of those different factors. But essentially, as we become adults, as we become not even necessarily adults, but the age of starting to be more self-aware, starting to be more in control of how we see ourselves, versus that 0 to 7 age range where it's literally we're just picking up everything that is poured into us. Once you get to a certain age, I don't necessarily know the specific age where you become more self-aware, but having teachers, having um, programs or courses that teach you those vital um, skills, like social emotional. Because a lot of times, like, you'll hear teachers say, oh, that's not my responsibility to teach them the social emotional development. And that for me is one of the reasons why I'm homeschooling my kids. And it's because I want my kids to have the individual care and support that they need in their learning experience. And me knowing my children better than anyone else, I can teach them better than anyone else. Other people might have different, opinions, or whatever the case may be, but this is what I believe is best for my kids, especially as Black kids growing up in a more suburban area. Um, so for me, it's literally about, being able to give them the opportunity to explore and learn for themselves, giving them the opportunity to see and form opinions about things for themselves, versus opinions and ideas being shoved down their throats that they have to learn to regurgitate. Because those students that can't talk in class, they can take a test real well, they can regurgitate and memorize information real well, but when it comes to asking them about how are you feeling, they probably can't tell you what feelings and emotions they're feeling. They probably can't tell you, how to deal with a conflict in a conversation. They probably can't tell you, how to empathize with somebody else, because they don't have these experiences. They don't have the experience. So yes, you might be able to take a test real well. You might be able to get the grades that is going to make the teacher look good. And that's really what it's about, making the teacher look good. Because like you said, they get the money, they get the funds not only for the IEPs, they get the funds for passing them tests, getting the higher test scores. So that's what it's really about. Continuing to process them through that system to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be teacher of the year because my kids are getting these, test grades. They're passing their tests. They're getting straight A's. They're on honor roll, whatever the case may be. But when it comes to preparing them for life, when it comes to preparing them for adulthood, they're going to be ill equipped because they don't know how to hold a conversation. They don't know how to handle conflict. They don't know how to deal with their emotions and be able to express their emotions in a way that is going to be beneficial for them. So it's a lack of whole child care when it comes to the school system. They treat children as just a physical body. They don't teach the entire being of a child. They don't um speak to the individuality of the child. They just treat them as a number. Oh, either an IEP or a test score or whatever the case may be. It's about the numbers. It's about them getting them through the system, getting paid for this child being in school, and that's why there's so much pushback when it comes to people homeschooling their kids, because the more people that push back against the system and homeschool their kids, that's taking money out of their pocket. So they're going to condition people to believe, oh, you can't homeschool your kids, or that's not what's most beneficial for them. Because I hear people all the time, oh, they're not able to, they don't have opportunities to socialize the way that they should if they're homeschooled, or they're going to be weird, or they're going to be this, they're going to be that. Like, people have been conditioned to believe that way by the system because they know that if more people homeschool their kids, that's going to be less money in their pockets. That's going to be less money in their schools. So they've had this whole programming for people to believe a certain way about homeschooling. But go ahead, Lady Jane.
So when I was in the school system, the big thing, and this is gonna tell you more about my age, but the big thing was TAG, so the Talented and Gifted program in Prince George's County. And you can probably look it up in the newspapers. It probably was around the early 80s that it came out. And so at that time, um, I want to stay on topic as well, but there were tests being developed to compare students of different socioeconomic backgrounds, identities, ethnicities, gender. And I remember in class, a little boy came to class and I can't remember the name of the test, but the teacher would say something like, do your best on this test. You're not going to be graded, but they're going to take all of our scores for the school and put them together. And then we're going to see where we place. So this little boy said that his father told him to flunk the test on purpose. And this was a straight A student. So I was really confused because he pretty much had the highest grade in our class. And so he turned around and said to the rest of us, just fill out anything. Don't even think about it. Just literally go A, B, C, D down the little bubble paper. And so a couple of us did it, and then there was a meeting. And when you have a black mom and they gotta come from work and they gotta sit in a meeting, that's a scary thing for a little black girl. So after the first time, I decided, okay, I'm gonna actually read the questions and fill out the information. So at the end of the school year, I started catching a bus with a little girl that I was friends with that was really one of my mom's daughters. And so she was a school teacher and she asked me about the test. And I said, well, I got in trouble because I filled it out any kind of way. And then there was a meeting with a group of us. And so the second time I went through and I read it, and I mean, I guess I didn't really take the time to think about the questions. And so that teacher knew about those tests, and she sat me down with her children and she explained exactly what those tests do. And it was really shocking because to me, I couldn't understand why they would be comparing the black students with the white students, with the Asian students, with the Latino students. It didn't make sense to me. If we're all in the same grade, why are we doing that? And so she pretty much had to talk to my parents in order to explain to me why that was happening. And my parents gave her the okay, and she broke down what that test meant. And she also made her daughter leave the classroom to come and get her when she finished that test. And I was just so shocked because she pretty much confirmed what the little boy was saying. And so when I went back to class, I was like, yeah, I got a friend's mom who kind of said what you said, and I don't get it. And he was like, all I know is that my dad was saying that it's pretty racist. So don't even fill it out. And I was looking at him like, I was confused about why he would even be concerned about racism because he wasn't a person of color. And so his dad came to that classroom, he went off and he was like, no, little kids don't. Like, I don't know. I've never had a parent do that, come to my class and go off about a test. They would normally come to me and then go over my head to the principal, then to the school system. But, I had never seen an adult do something like that. And then, the dad was like, no, they're doing it to keep, he couldn't say to keep black non students of color, to separate the students of color from from
Mm-hmm.
those who are not of color. At that point today, you probably could say that and they probably just ask you to leave. But um we never really, like, my peers, we kind of just looked at one another like I didn't get it. Like, I was like, so basically my test scores are being compared to yours. And for what if we're in the same school system? So yeah, she explained that. But that's as far as the school system growing up, I can never think of anybody who, or a teacher who would even give the information for a parent to homeschool. That was something you had to go into the school system to get information about. And it was a fight more than putting your child in a tag class.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, because I knew it was going to take away from the bottom line of the school.
Yeah, as an educator, there are so many things going on. Like, hold on for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, somebody in my home was talking. There are so many things going on. When I started, I started as a substitute, and I came into a classroom on a day that a educator decided to take off. And there were 5 people. They came in to look at what was on the walls. There were some people that came to write down reports of how the color mats were on the ground. There were 5 angry parents. And that pretty much was my first day.
Mm. Yeah, it's a lot that goes on in the school system that, and it's why, and I don't understand why teachers are paid the way that they're paid, because teachers have to go through so much extra stuff outside of just being able to teach the kids in their class. They dealing with kids outside of their class, dealing with the issues that the kids bring in from home. So it's definitely a lot in the school system, and why so much turnover with teachers and burnout with teachers more than anything, because of all the stuff
Yeah.
that's going on.
Yeah. I didn't want to make you late. If this 7:51, if that was
You good. I
oh
enjoyed the conversation, so you're good. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about or a book that you wanted to share about?
well, I'm waiting on the book, but I would like to say that what you pointed out today with the hypnosis, it's making me think about what we could say, as in humans, as in people, as in sisters, as in even teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer a teacher in the public school system, but there are definitely things that we could affirm. We could have positive affirmations for our students for real. And I used to have them, but when I say I was creative, I'm talking about I flipped my entire class lessons into drama, into theatrical drama, um, like little, they call it drama centers for pre-K. But I would
Mm-hmm.
take it and I would just get in so much trouble. But I was determined to let my students know, um, when you leave this grade, this is what's going to be expected of you. And to just make it short, I shared some things that was rough for me in certain grades. And then I think my students were really shocked when I brought my college loan papers in and let them look at it and look at what I was getting paid to pay that college loan off. I had one little boy go home and tell his dad he wanted to open a savings account and start saving now and contributing to his college because he was not about to sign no college loans. And I was tickled because he wasn't playing. He came with a full financial plan and he couldn't have been no older than he probably was in the first grade. He was like, I'm not trying to get no college loans. Uh-uh.
Yeah, because they don't even talk about that in school. You don't talk about college student loans until you get into financial aid. And they like, oh, this is your financial aid. And then you realize, oh, this is stuff I got to pay back later on.
Right. Now we're gonna have to talk about that another time because there was
Mhm.
something that happened right before our last president left office that was tricky, that a lot of people was trying to they were trying to get to the bottom of. So for example, if you come to my school, the Lady J University, no, we can just if I come to your school, the Golden Child University, and I need a college loan to go to school, and but I'm asking for a grant or a scholarship, but someone on your behalf of your university tells me that it is a scholarship and a grant, but it's not. It's a college loan. That's supposed to be part of the forgiveness package because the individuals were deceived about what exactly they were getting. So
Mm.
that's a whole nother thing. I don't even know if that program is still around, but yeah, universities can't tell you that it's not a college loan.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
whole lot
girl.
of a whole lot of fraudulent stuff going on in the school system, all the way up to college and masters, PhDs. All like it's about the money, literally. Like to go to other countries, let education be free to get your degrees. It makes no sense as to why we have so much student loan debt in this country. So, girl, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, but as always, Lady J, I appreciate you for coming. I appreciate the conversation. It's always, good to think further, think deeper into this, and really be able to apply it to life and apply it to other people's lives and other people's experiences. So I appreciate you tremendously. Um, Thank you for continuing to come, continuing to bring your questions, continuing to show up for me, for you. Um, yeah, but that's all I got today.
All right. Thank you too, sis.
You are very welcome, and I will see you. What's tomorrow? I don't think we have anything tomorrow.
You got
Um,
something right now, actually.
oh, we supposed to
If
be
I read it right.
working out. We supposed to be working out right now.
Well, we gonna work out then.
All right, let's
I'll
let's
see
hop
you
on over
then.
there. All right,
All right. Bye.
peace.